Hello to all Cinemaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. The movie begins with a man named Kevin swimming in a lake. He mentions that he has never been to this lake before, but somehow he knows how to swim in it. He gets out of the water, wearing his regular clothes, and adjusts to his surroundings. He says he needs to find his way home. After that, he disappears. He is the head of a bank that lost $16 billion in just 3 days. As a result, the investors' trust in the bank was shaken, and all the employees were fired. Later, at a bar after he has left his job, he recounts how he met his wife in that bar on the same day. She was the one who approached him first, and at first, he didn't speak to her kindly. However, she told him she was doing a challenge with her friends to strike up a conversation with him. He looked over at her friends and asked what the challenge was about. The challenge was for her to talk to him, get to know him, find out why he was upset, and get him to ask her out. He ends up telling her about his problem, they get to know each other, and eventually they get married. He then has breakfast, and they had a son. Kevin goes to work, and while driving, he calls his wife to talk about bills and expenses. Suddenly, a car hits him, and he loses consciousness. When he wakes up, he finds a man trying to revive him, but he loses consciousness again. This time, he wakes up in a different place with the same man. Kevin asks him his name, and the man tells him he is the benefactor. Kevin doesn't understand what he means and tries to get up and leave, but the man hits him and tells him he's there to help. The man says he wants to offer Kevin a job, but Kevin refuses and goes to look for his car. The man follows him, and as they walk through the city, they don't see anyone else. When Kevin asks about his car and the accident, the man tells him that there was no accident at all. Kevin tries to call his wife, but the man tells him it won't work. Kevin looks at him in confusion and asks, "Who are you?" Strangely, the benefactor responds that this is not the first time they've met. Kevin, still puzzled, replies that he has never seen him before. He becomes more distressed and asks who the man is and where all the people went. The man said that the people didn't go anywhere, but Kevin did. At that moment, Kevin is shocked. The benefactor takes him to have dinner, and they enter a restaurant where there are some strange-looking people, all of them with sad expressions. The waitress brings Kevin the food he ordered, and he asks her to sit with him and eat. When she refuses, he speaks to her harshly, hands her a knife, and makes her sit. He feeds her some of the meat. Afterward, the benefactor asks Kevin if he had a fight with his wife over the bills. Kevin is surprised and asks how the benefactor knew. The benefactor tells him that his wife isn't real, and that she has been replaced by someone who looks like her. He also tells Kevin that his real wife is in a different world. Kevin doesn't believe him, so the benefactor offers to prove it by transferring anyone from the world they are currently in to another one. He says he will transfer the girl sitting next to them, and indeed, she disappears. At that point, Kevin becomes scared and asks where she went. The benefactor tells him that he transferred her to another place and that he could replace her with someone who looks exactly like her. He also tells Kevin that she is now in a world where her parents never existed and where they never met. Her parents, who are very upset over her disappearance. Kevin asks the benefactor what he wants from him. The benefactor replies that he wants him for a big mission. He explains that in every parallel world, there are individuals like him, positioned strategically to do the same work that he's doing. He tells Kevin that all the people named Kevin before him chose to work with him and that he will become like them. The benefactor then reveals that there are 1,000 versions of Kevin working for him in other worlds, and if Kevin cooperates, he will return him to his wife. At that moment, Kevin starts praying, and we see that the benefactor becomes anxious, nervous, and angry. Suddenly, the benefactor disappears, vanishing completely. Kevin notices that everyone around him is staring at him. He asks the parents of the girl who disappeared, and then he leaves. It seems like there's a curfew, and soldiers appear. When they see Kevin, they pull out their weapons and start shooting, but Kevin manages to escape. The next day, Kevin wakes up, saying that this isn't his world and that he's been there for over 5 years. He talks about how the people here destroyed everything due to hatred, and scenes of wars and protests were seen. Then, the transporters are revealed, showing that they had been working in the shadows, using their devices to exile politicians and soldiers. When Kevin turns on the TV, a reporter mentions that it has been 5 years since the benefactor's last public appearance and Kevin's disappearance after he refused to cooperate. Kevin is searching for any transporter to take their device and use it to return to his original world and reunite with his love, Molly. He's working on the plan, and later, he meets with his colleague Gabriel, who hands him a note. Gabriel knows Kevin's secret, so Kevin asks if he's learned anything new that could help him get the device and escape the world. Gabriel tells him that a woman claimed to have seen a device on someone's arm in the area. The world filled with extremists, with posters of the benefactor plastered everywhere. Kevin uses his job's money to buy food, and whatever's left, he gives to the homeless in the streets. He constantly searches for the transporters among the people. As he walks, he sees a man and his wife dancing in the street, which reminds him of his wife. In this world, The Bible or any holy book is banned, so Kevin writes down everything he remembers so he never forgets. He gives his notes to Gabriel, who works with him. Kevin's neighbor also works with them and has learned about the situation. Kevin sits with Gabriel and tells him about erasing the benefactor back in the restaurant, saying that he wasn't who did it, it was God. Kevin goes to a place that resembles a cinema in this world, where he sits to watch his alternate versions in random parallel worlds. He hopes to see his wife, Molly, and he sees many versions of himself, the criminal, the killer, the prisoner. As he flips through, something catches his attention, his wife, Molly. He is overjoyed but runs out of time. He asks the cinema owner to add more time, but the owner tells him that the place is fully booked until Wednesday. Kevin promises to return on Thursday. Next, he's among a crowd trying to enter Southhand, where a man told him he had seen one of the transporters. Security forces block the way, and Kevin stands with his neighbor. Someone in the crowd tries to force their way through, and the security forces threaten to kill him. Suddenly, the man disappears, and Kevin, shocked by what he sees, realizes he was one of the transporters. Kevin escapes, enters a building, and tells his companion that the man who disappeared didn't have a device on his hand. His friend explains that the transporters are disguised and could be living normal lives with jobs and families. Kevin tells Gabriel that when he prayed, the benefactor told him he wouldn't leave him alone. That night, Kevin goes to the market to buy medicine because he's been sick. He sees a small boy leave his mother and walk away. Kevin calls out to the mother, but she doesn't respond. He follows the boy, but when he turns around, he sees the boy back with his mother. Kevin asks the woman if she knows where his son just was. She replies that her son didn't go anywhere and had been with her the whole time. Kevin is confused and leaves. He recalled when he was at the supermarket with his wife and son. Back then, their son walked away and got lost. After some time, the police brought back the backpack he was wearing, but they never found him. Since then, Kevin's wife has believed that their son is dead, though Kevin didn't want to accept it. He tells her that she doesn't say they should forget him, and then he walks away. The world where Kevin is living. His friend comes to take him for a meal, and they head to his house, where the friend is married and has children. They all get introduced, and Kevin says he's about to leave. His friend winks at his wife, who closes the door, and then the friend calls Kevin by his real name, something only Gabriel knew. Kevin is surprised, and his neighbor explains that he figured it out when Gabriel at work called him by his real name. Kevin tells them that he's not the person they're looking for and asks if they are transporters. They laugh it off, turning the situation into a joke. The wife then mentions that their daughters want to hear a song, which includes some words from the Bible. At that moment, Kevin breaks down in tears and they ask him to teach them what he remembers. He steps outside and hears the sound of sirens. A woman tells them to tune into Channel 4. The news reports that the benefactor has returned and that his main goal is to recruit Kevin. In 2 days, citizens will be selected through a random lottery to pledge allegiance to the benefactor, and those who don't show up will be killed. On Thursday, Kevin goes to the cinema, but when he knocks on the door, it's closed, and no one answers. The owner tells him from behind the door that they've shut down. Kevin reminds him that they had agreed to meet at this time. When Kevin insists on entering, the owner tells him that the benefactor has returned and ordered him to cut all ties with Kevin and that he should leave. Kevin then makes a cat noise and tells the cinema owner that his cat, which he had been searching for, is with him. The owner opens the door, but when he realizes Kevin tricked him, he gets angry. Kevin asks when the cat went missing, and the owner replies that, about 4 years ago. Kevin then says that if he thinks she might come back after 4 years. The owner suggests that maybe one of the transporters took her and that she could return at any time. Kevin sits down and asks the owner if there's any chance he could see Molly again. The owner says the chance is 0, and that the only reason Kevin saw her last time was due to pure luck, and it won't happen again. Kevin opens the device and sees Molly again, walking through the door, talking to a little girl. The cinema owner is in disbelief. Molly is shown to be a nurse in this world. As Kevin flips through the channels, he continues to see Molly in every world he visits, which is extremely rare. In each of these worlds, Molly works a different job. As Kevin keeps flipping, he finds the world he came from and recognizes it because Molly is wearing the necklace he had given her as a gift. He drops the remote in shock and enters a state of disbelief, overjoyed. He tells the cinema owner that this last Molly is his wife, the real one. Kevin starts asking for the coordinates of the world she is in, but the owner says everything happened too fast, and he can't pinpoint the location. Kevin pleads with him, but the owner says it's impossible because the broadcast determines the location, and once Kevin left the room, the broadcast stopped, making it impossible to determine the world. Kevin tells the owner that he will return to restart the broadcast, but the owner says his chances are very slim due to the countless worlds that exist. However, Kevin is persistent, and the owner agrees to help him. He then tells Kevin that even if he figures out the world, he won't be able to go there without the transporter's device. The idea excites Kevin, but the owner says he was joking, claiming it's impossible. Kevin tells him to stay ready because when he returns, he'll be in a hurry, and then he leaves. Kevin decides to go to the place mentioned in the news broadcast where citizens are required to gather. He meets Gabriel and asks him for a gun. Gabriel hands him his gun. The next day, he leaves and goes to the place, and he sees the benefactor walking, followed by another version of Kevin. He was wearing the clothes he had on when the accident happened at the beginning. The guards are busy with the citizens, so Kevin sneaks over to where the benefactor is. He enters, but the benefactor disappears and Kevin finds himself back in his room. When he leaves, he finds himself at the door of the restaurant again, with the guards coming towards him. When he goes inside, he is back in his room again, not understanding what's happening. As he leaves, he looks to his side and sees the benefactor appear again, and someone starts shooting at him, injuring his arm. He enters his room, confused by what's happening, and pokes his head out of the door. He thinks there's a gun pointed at him, so he quickly goes back in, unsure of what to do. He throws away the gun, stays in his room, feeling very sad and frustrated. He's breaking things in the room and crying. Suddenly, the benefactor appears, talks to him, and picks up the gun. He asks Kevin where he got it, then says that it doesn't matter. He already know. Suddenly, Gabriel appears out of nowhere, also surprised. The benefactor asks Gabriel if this was his gun. Gabriel denies knowing Kevin or owning the gun. The benefactor tells Kevin if this is the person he trusted with his writings last time. He prayed to God, and he answered, but not every time will be like that. He then offers Kevin a deal, saying he could fulfill all his wishes if they work together. Kevin asks about his son, when he transferred him to another world. The benefactor doesn't answer. At that moment, Kevin hears the soldiers knocking on his neighbor's door. When he steps out, he sees them shooting his neighbor. Kevin quickly runs back to his room and lies on the floor, telling Gabriel to do the same. But Gabriel doesn't make it, and he's shot and killed. Kevin hides and realizes that Gabriel was a transporter when he sees the device in his hand. Kevin feels shocked and takes the device, but he's injured in his hand. He activates the device and suddenly finds himself in a different world, a vast desert. He tries to activate the device again, but it's starting to malfunction. Frustrated, he bangs it against something in the same lake from the beginning. He presses the device again and finds himself in a new world, this time inside a medicine storage room. When he steps out, he realizes he's in a mental hospital. As he walks through the hospital, he meets Gabriel again, who had died in the other world. Gabriel has a gun and wants to kill him. Kevin sees more than one version of Gabriel, all of them wanting to kill him. He runs away, and while escaping, he sees Tina, who had disappeared from the restaurant. She's a patient in the hospital. He sits down with her, tries to talk, and she recognizes him. It's clear she's in shock, having been sent from her original world to the one she's in now. She begs him to take her back to her world, but he tells her he can't help because he doesn't know how to return. As they talk, nurses come and restrain Tina. At that moment, Gabriel comes and starts shooting at Kevin. Kevin presses the device again and is transported to yet another world, this time inside a house. There, he sees another version of himself, a gangster or criminal. When the criminal Kevin sees the original Kevin, he's shocked. The criminal Kevin is very upset that the original Kevin entered his world. He tries to kill the original Kevin and take the device from him, but Kevin hides under a table. When the criminal Kevin reaches him, the original Kevin has already disappeared and returned to the previous world. In that world, Kevin sees his neighbor and former colleague being loaded into an ambulance, injured. One of the bystanders sees Kevin, and she collapses. The soldiers begin to chase him, and he escapes while they search for him. He goes to a cinema, sits down with the device, and tries to pinpoint his original world. He flips through worlds rapidly as the soldiers close in on him. Finally, he locates his world, smiles, and enters its coordinates into the device just in time with the help of the cinema's owner. He returns to his world and goes to Molly. He talks to her, but her reaction is strange. She doesn't want to speak with him and tells him they separated a long time ago, and it was his decision. Kevin tells her it wasn't him, but she doesn't believe him. She says she's moved on and is with someone else. He tries to explain, but she doesn't understand and tries to hide her necklace. He stops her and asks why she's still wearing the necklace. She tells him it gives her hope that they might be reunited with their son one day. Kevin says he wishes time could go back so he could change everything that happened to them. At that moment, the benefactor appears and pulls Kevin back into another world. When Kevin tries to use the device again, the benefactor shoots it, breaking it. The benefactor talks to Kevin, then brings out Tina, who had been in the mental hospital. Kevin pleads with the benefactor to leave Tina alone. The benefactor tells Kevin that Kevin is always fighting him, even though he's really fighting himself, asking him if he wants to be someone different from who he is. During their conversation, Kevin learns that the benefactor had a hand in his son's disappearance, Molly crying after Kevin disappeared. The benefactor tells Kevin that despite his filthy appearance, it's clear that Molly still loves him. The benefactor offers Kevin a choice. He can either reunite with Molly or save Tina and return her to her family. Kevin is torn. The benefactor tries to persuade Kevin to think of himself and choose Molly, promising to take care of Tina and ensure she's not mistreated in the hospital. But Kevin refuses, shocking the benefactor. Kevin accuses the benefactor of lying, and the benefactor begins speaking blasphemous words. He taunts Kevin, saying that how God lets him do whatever he wants to him, Tina, and everyone else, yet he doesn't stop him. Kevin replies that there may be a lot of evil, terror, and betrayal in the world, but there's also kindness, goodness, hope, and many beautiful things. God is everywhere, and everything he's been through only strengthens his belief in him. The benefactor is left speechless. He gives Kevin the choice again between his wife and Tina. Kevin chooses Tina and bids Molly farewell. Tina is returned to her family, and the benefactor, furious, takes Gabriel's gun. Just as he's about to kill Kevin, the benefactor got burned. Kevin falls into a coma, and when he wakes up, he sees himself in a mirror with no injuries, and his wedding ring is gone. Molly's sitting in a bar, looking sad. Kevin approaches her, but this is a different version of Molly Nurse. She's talking to her mother and daughter. Kevin asks her daughter's name, and she says it's Lucy. Kevin tells her about his son, who was named Daniel and played the violin. They start talking, and eventually they get married and live a happy life. Lucy grows up, and they have a son named Daniel. Kevin says this may not be his original world, but it's definitely his home. The movie ends. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification button to receive all